Hey everybody, and welcome to another Deep Dives. Today we're looking at something I think is really interesting. It's the link between lean training and environmental awareness.
Oh, yeah.
And, probably a lot of you listening right now are already familiar with lean, using it to make things more efficient,
Right.
to increase productivity. I mean, millions of people are using lean these days.
Yeah. It's really reached critical mass.
It really has. But here's a question for you. What if those same skills that we're using to streamline processes, to make things more efficient, to, boost those profits,
Yeah.
what if they could also benefit the planet? I mean, that would be pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. You can actually apply those same lean principles to identify and eliminate environmental waste. So you're kind of getting that win-win, right? It's not just about profits anymore. It's about creating a healthier planet, too.
So let's unpack this a little bit. We know waste is a core concept in lean.
Right.
But how does that connect to environmentalism? How are those two things connected?
Well, think about sustainability. There's a really great report, the Brundtland Report, a landmark study on sustainable development. And it defines sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs.
And we actually have a visual here, 3 overlapping circles,
Okay.
1 environmental, 1 social, and 1 economic. And, to be truly sustainable, you kind of need to find that sweet spot right in the middle where all those needs are met.
Yeah.
And this visual, by the way, is from John Dreo, 2006, on Wikimedia.
Perfect.
So if we think about the 7 wastes of lean,
Right.
we have overproduction, we've got waiting, we have transportation, all of those things. We can actually see how a lot of those directly translate into burdens on the environment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So overproduction leads to using too many resources. Unnecessary transportation leads to emissions.
Right.
It's 2 sides of the same coin.
Exactly. And there are tons of companies out there that are actually doing this in the real world. They're applying lean to get these environmental wins and economic wins at the same time.
Yeah.
We have all these millions of people who are already dedicated to efficiency and waste reduction. Imagine the possibilities if we could just connect that dedication with some serious environmental expertise.
That's what I was thinking. Like, we have all these lean thinkers on one side
Right.
and environmental experts on the other.
Exactly.
What happens when we bring those 2 worlds together?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, and that's exactly what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Ooh. Yeah. And there's some really amazing case studies out there,
Yeah.
like Goodrich Aerostructures. So they applied lean principles to how they were managing their chemicals.
Wow.
And they were able to reduce a ton of waste. They didn't even need these 5,000-gallon chemical tanks anymore,
Wow.
which also, reduces the risk of spills.
Of course, yeah.
So it's safer, too.
Yeah, that's a great example.
So it seems like anybody who's got lean training, they've got a really unique opportunity to make a big difference
For sure.
when it comes to protecting the environment.
And if you think about how many people are actually trained in lean, we're talking about a massive potential force for good.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So how can our listeners, all you lean thinkers out there, how can we start to identify and eliminate this environmental waste in our own work? What can we do?
Well, the first step is understanding that our traditional way of looking at cost accounting often hides the true environmental costs of doing business.
Okay, so let's dig into that a little. What do you mean by these hidden costs?
So things like, waste disposal, environmental permitting fees, even the long-term impact of pollution, all of that gets buried in overhead costs.
So companies might not even realize how much of an impact they're having on the environment because those costs aren't being accounted for.
That's right. And that's where lean thinking really comes in and shines a light on those expenses.
Oh, well.
And it makes it financially attractive to be eco-efficient.
So using these lean principles, companies can actually make more money and reduce their impact on the planet.
Precisely, yeah. It's finding those solutions where everyone wins. Both the business and the planet are benefiting. That's what makes this connection so powerful.
So lean can actually help companies make more money and be better for the planet.
Exactly.
That's awesome. But how? How do we actually use lean tools to do this? Can you give us some specific examples?
Sure. Let's take the revised economic order quantity model.
Okay.
It actually considers the end-of-life costs of materials, things like obsolescence and disposal.
So we're not just thinking about how much do we order,
Right.
but also what happens to all that stuff when we're done with it.
Yeah, exactly. So lean inventory management, when you start to think about those long-term impacts, it naturally becomes greener.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the 5S methodology.
Yeah.
Sort, Set in order, shine, standardize, sustain.
Oh yeah, 5S. Everyone knows about 5S.
Right.
Seems like that would have some pretty clear connections to environmentalism.
It does, yeah. So a really clean and organized workspace, it's naturally going to reduce wasted motion and materials.
Right.
And it can even help us identify potential environmental hazards, things like spills or leaks that we might not have noticed before.
Yeah. So you're making a safer and more efficient workspace.
Exactly.
For people and for the planet.
That's right. And a lot of organizations these days are even adding a sixth S, safety, which, it just further strengthens that link between worker well-being and taking care of the environment.
It's all connected.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about value stream mapping.
Okay.
Or VSM.
Yeah. VSM is like a treasure map for waste. It helps us visualize that whole flow of a process. And it helps us see not just those traditional lean wastes, but also those hidden environmental wastes that we might not have noticed before.
Okay, yeah.
The Columbia Paint and Coatings case study is a great example.
Oh, yeah. They used value stream mapping.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to find a lot of water waste.
Yeah, they found a major source of water waste in their rinsing process.
Yeah.
And, obviously water is a valuable resource, so they were able to redesign that process to reuse the water.
That's amazing. So they save money.
Yeah.
And they're helping the environment.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
It's a great example of how lean thinking can lead to these really innovative solutions that, solve a problem for the business, but also help the environment.
So this is all really encouraging stuff. But I do wonder about some of the potential roadblocks.
Yeah.
Are there challenges that people might face when they're trying to apply lean to environmental issues? I mean, it can't all be easy, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there can definitely be some challenges. One of them is something we call regulatory friction, especially when you're working with those environmentally sensitive processes.
Okay.
The regulations can be pretty complex, and applying lean methods might require us to get a little bit creative to make sure we're still in compliance.
Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, for sure. So imagine you're trying to reclaim paint solids and solvents, which is, a classic lean move to reduce waste.
Right.
But then you also have to consider regulations like the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, RCRA.
Oh, okay.
And RCRA has some very specific definitions of what's considered waste.
Okay.
And those definitions, they might complicate our efforts to reuse certain materials.
Oh, okay. So you really have to know the rules of the game.
You do, yeah.
Before you start.
Familiarize yourself with the rules before you start playing. But luckily, there is a growing trend of environmental agencies actually integrating sustainability into lean training.
So there's help out there.
There is.
To help people navigate all this.
Yeah, the EPA actually has this great resource, the Lean and Environment Toolkit. And it's really helpful for anyone who wants to dig deeper into this and figure out how to add these environmental considerations into their lean initiatives.
That's fantastic. So to sum it all up, it seems like anyone who has lean training, they've already got a head start when it comes to helping the environment.
Oh, absolutely. They already have those skills, right? That mindset of always looking for waste and trying to streamline those processes. It's just taking that same thinking and applying it to those environmental concerns.
And with so many lean practitioners, I mean, literally millions of people.
It's huge, yeah.
That's a lot of potential to make a difference.
Exactly. Imagine if every single one of those lean practitioners was out there trying to find ways to eliminate environmental waste in their work. I mean, the impact would be incredible.
So what can our listeners do? What can we do right now to start making a difference?
Well, I think the first thing is to really embrace that connection between lean thinking and environmentalism.
Okay.
Start to look at waste through that environmental lens. Ask yourself, how is this waste impacting the planet?
Yeah, that's a good point. Just shifting our perspective a little bit. It's not just good for business.
Right.
It's good for the planet, too.
Exactly, yeah. And don't be afraid to get creative. Look for new ways to use those lean tools, those lean principles, to tackle these environmental challenges.
Like Columbia Paints and Coatings reusing their water.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many possibilities out there. It's really exciting to think about the potential.
Well, this has been really interesting. So we've seen how lean training can help us not only make things more efficient and productive, but also create a more sustainable future.
It's not just about profits anymore, right? It's about building a world where businesses can thrive. And at the same time, we're taking care of the planet. And anyone with lean training can be a part of that.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the connection between lean and environmentalism. We hope you got some good ideas and that you're feeling inspired to go out there and make a difference in your own work. Keep thinking lean and keep striving for a more sustainable future. We'll see you next time.